Experience!
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. Week 6, DraftKings, picks, lineups, ownership, cheap plays, Tambos in studio from shipitnation.com. How'd you do in Showdown last night?
It was close.
Close.
Yeah, it was a big chop up top. I don't want that. I'm not playing to win the 7K. Hey, tell Megan, my wife, I won 500K last night, but it was only 7K. That's the problem with that one. So shout out to all the winners. Some members had it. I mean, it's good for them. I just don't play that way, so I'm never going to be in that chop.
So your chop's going to be like 3 people, 4 people if it happens.
Yeah, I want it to be like for six figures plus or as close to that as I can get when you have a prize that big up top.
All right. So who was the guy that you needed? Debo is the captain?
Debo was the captain last night, and close. One of our guys, Rio, he's been on an absolute heater. He almost got what's that guy's name? Garendo down the stretch. If he had a win in the box, I think it was like I think he would have got second or third with like a 2-way chop. It would have been nice there. So you got to have some of those plays sometimes, but Jordan Mason going out didn't help anybody.
No. Except for him, maybe.
Yeah, possibly.
If you had Garendo. Or Patrick Taylor, if he had ended up getting some more carries.
It was close. They were trying to feed the Kyle Juszczyk and Kittle wife situation all night if you saw jumping up into the stands and doing all their thing there. So that just all made sense in the end when they both got touchdowns.
I'll have a complete injury recap, rankings update, and underdog picks coming out on Saturday on the Pat Mayo Experience feed. So please sub to the channel, smash the like while you're here. But let's talk briefly about the running back situation for DraftKings on the main slate this week. Do you just pay for Barkley? I'm very intrigued about this Eagles offense this week.
Yeah, so this is a really good slate. I think first off, I'll start the show with that. It's going to be good to go throughout, so stick around because I really like breaking down this slate, the way it's set up, the games are all that. But I think the Barkley conversation is a good one to start with because one interesting note is it's not the same as last week where we had the Tracy's and the break the Slaytons. Got to bring that one back up. We got all the way there, right to the optimal with that play. But I will say, you do have the money to be able to get up to him here still in a guy like Barkley. But the most interesting thing to me right off the top is actually a leverage of that. If we do see Barkley get up there, I think he's getting some ownership right now, and it's probably expected to rise, I would say, is that Jalen Hurts is $100 less than Jaden Daniels, who we will definitely be talking about on this slate and why I'm rocking the Ravens stuff this week, because I'm hoping it's Jaden Daniels and we can be done with this guy and the Ravens can get a W here.
Hey, even if they get the W, Washington can still cover the 6.5. You're worried that this game goes way under, aren't you? I
am. I actually really am. I just think it's one of those things. Both these pass defenses are horrific, so I get why on paper and everything I'm getting is telling me Lamar, Jaden, you can fit these guys. The price isn't fully adjusted. They're not $8,500 or $8,400 quarterbacks. They're underneath the 8K range, so they're in the 7s. But I do just think sometimes these defenses step up in a spot like this because they really want to prove that their guy is the guy, and they just do so much more. Plus, think about it. These two teams, where they are geographically, the crowd, everything's going to be hyped up, but I think they just want to run the ball and keep the other guy off the field as much as possible, and I worry that's going to run the clock. So maybe a first half under is a good one, and I don't do a lot of betting, but I think that could be a way to go about it, and then they get settled in the second half.
Ownership right now at running back looking like Hubbard is probably going to be the highest one. Then you get your Bijan, Pollard, Najee, Alvin Kamara, Jacobs. Then you're into Barkley, Gibbs, Henry, Dobbins, Connor. I love Chuba Hubbard. I like that he gets the ball all the time, but if he's going to be 30% owned, I'm probably going to pass.
Well, yeah, it's because Dalton's back in there. I mean, you had the point last week. Funny enough, Bryce Young came into the game at the very end. I'm sure you saw this, but it was like he had 9 plays or something that he ran, not one with Deontay or Chuba. It's like, yeah, I'm done with those. As soon as he's in, it's over for them. But remember Gus the Bus? We got the choo-choo train. Chuba, 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 choo-choo. Get this guy in there, man. $6,300. It's him or Deontay Johnson. I do think that game is another one that we're going to be talking about, because if you're not interested in the passing game in Washington, Baltimore, I think people are leaning over to the Kirk Cousins side of things. It's easy to stack up. And when we get to the builds later, the Kirk Cousins lineups fit the Washington, Baltimore secondary stack with the Barkley, Eagles. You can just build the exact lineup that's the one if it plays out that way.
Hubbard I can get behind, although the ownership is not looking great right now, so that could be a pass. But Bijan, Pollard, and Najee, even at the price point, 66, 6,000, and 58, I don't like any of those guys, really.
Bijan is so cheap. I know he hit the injury report yesterday. I don't know if
he's been on the injury report each of the past 2 weeks with this hamstring problem. He keeps having limited practices, and then he gets 40% of the work. Am I missing something that he's just all of a sudden going to get 90% of the work?
I don't know. It's just insane. But 6,600 against Carolina, I'll tell you what, if he doesn't get it done, if he plays and doesn't get it done here, then it's really tough to ever play this guy because it's been really bad so far. But yeah, I get it.
I think Henry is probably the way that I would go if he's going to be like 10 to 15% owned. Everyone's taking the passing games on both sides of that game. That one just makes a ton of sense to me.
The other question, I was going to bring that up earlier too, the flip side of the situational stuff with that game, what I brought up a little bit earlier was like if you do go to Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels, doesn't matter. They're both right there. But instead of Barkley, it's $200 less and you put in Henry. And to my point, if they do just run the clock or try to at least run the clock, run on the ground as much as they can just to move it along, that would be another thing that you could do there where you're not playing Barkley, you play Hurts, and then you have Derrick Henry in your running back slot.
And there are some other injury situations. It doesn't look like Zamir White is going to play against the Steelers. That probably, it's Alexander Madison, who really cares about him. Gus Edwards might not play. So Dobbins at 6,200 against Denver would be probably the guy who gets 75% of the touches in that backfield. Mm-hmm. The other ones to really watch out for is Rachaad White hasn't practiced yet this week. Not sure what's going on with him. It's a foot injury, but whether or not he's going to play, but you might get a full complement of Bucky Irving at $5,400. And if that happens, he's going to be mega owned.
He's going to fire up the board, and he should. I mean, he's already looked like he was taking it over, and that price is just bad if he's a starting running back. I don't care, matchups, anything, whatever. And he'll fit perfectly for all those that want to play the Rattler. Get Rattler in there this week, and you've got your Rattler Bucky Irving mini stack for what, $9,400 for a quarterback, and potentially the one and done show for Tampa Bay there if White is out, where you'd have just Bucky Irving.
Brian Robinson is now officially a game time decision. He was exactly the same last week and ended up playing very limited touches, but he got the important touches. Would you go to him at $6,400 knowing that he's probably not even going to touch the ball 50% of the time?
No, I don't have much interest in him, at least as of right now. I'd have to see more. I know he came in last week and got the job done.
Ramondre sort of. He had two touchdowns. He had like 14 DraftKings points.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you got to watch out for. That's the way it can go. But I mean, that's what people are looking at, I think, is when they're looking at did he score? He scored 2 touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson last week didn't break the slate, but he came in and, he was supposed to be the backup running back behind Antonio Gibson, and he comes out right away and pretty much scores. So people just see the one event that happened, and that I don't have any interest there at all.
Ramondre is also not practicing. It looks like he's going to play, but if he doesn't, would you have interest in Gibson at 5,300 with Drake May starting?
No.
At all? Even if he's the starting running back?
Again, things can change by Sunday, but right now they're not even on my list.
Okay. The other one is, where is it? Dameon Pierce is probably going to play. Not sure with Joe Mixon as of yet in that same game. So if let's say Mixon sits, because if he plays, I don't know how many touches he's going to get because he's still limited in practice. Pierce is full practice. Clearly they hate Cam Akers. We saw that last week when they're giving Dare that many touches on the ground, which he just never gets. I would assume that at $4,900, Pierce becomes a pretty decent play.
Yeah, I would have more interest in Pierce for sure than the other guys that you previously mentioned. I did see some Mixon video yesterday from practice. I mean, it looks all right. It's practice video. It's hard to tell. I just say at least you're seeing it and you're saying, okay, he does look like he's kind of healthy, but we'll have to wait and see. But I do have more interest in Pierce. And you mentioned Dobbins earlier, but I'll just say Javonte Williams and Dobbins both in that game. Again, obviously the Gus Edwards thing really sways that to one side officially, but I have interest in the two running backs in that game, not necessarily against each other, but say in a lineup saying, but just either of them, they're on my list as well. And then Najee Harris, who I think you mentioned slightly, but he's up there too.
He is. I always just worry that Fields is going to steal his touchdowns.
Yeah, it's always possible. But I mean, it's no different if people playing Barkley this week. Jalen Hurts can easily steal 3 touchdowns off of him. And then instead you've got a cheaper version of a guy that can get vultured just as easily, but you save all that money.
I think the price is obviously a lot different between the two, but I guess the difference between Barkley would be is they are giving him the ball in the red zone. For sure. And he is always liable to break off an 80-yard run, which you don't normally see from Najee Harris.
I don't even know if Najee can run 80 yards. It's one of those things, but that's my point. It's still a salary-based game. I think sometimes people take that, and not you, but others out there, so it's like, oh, he's comparing him to Barkley. No, not at all. We play a salary-based game. I'm saying if I can pick up $2,000 or whatever it is in the difference, I may be able to deploy that somewhere else where I can make a better lineup.
With wide receiver, Pittman is probably going to go to injured reserve for the Colts. And now Josh Downs isn't practicing with his toe injury. That leaves a lot of cheap Colts receivers. Do you have a preference, or is it just like, who cares?
Still probably a Donnie Mitchell. Yeah, I've liked him since the start of the season. He's had his opportunities, but it makes it a little bit more challenging. I guess the bigger thing there is, I know we'll get to it later, but it actually sounds like Richardson could be good to go, and we may, it's not going to be Flacco this time. So
yeah, he practiced in full, so I would expect him to play.
So I don't know. What's interesting about that, and why I still think Adonai Mitchell is interesting, is because I think it was Richardson was trying to hit him right? There was a 1 week, remember he almost had 2 touchdowns or whatever. Those are from Richardson versus Flacco flipped over and made Pittman a little bit relevant before, and then Josh Downs before, this injury stuff too. So I don't hate Adonai Mitchell. We'll talk about him later, but I like him.
And no interest in Alec Pierce as a one-off because he is their deep threat.
Oh, God, man, Flacco was hitting him too. That was
crazy. Richardson and Flacco are hitting him.
Yeah, he's fine. I definitely am not against him. I just have more interest in Mitchell.
And we don't know exactly how the Packers situation is going to play itself out. It looks like Romeo Doubs is going to be back, and Christian Watson could be back this week too.
Yeah, it would muddy it up for a now price increase. Jaden Reed deserves his price increase.
And Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, isn't he also?
No, Tucker Kraft is playing. Musgrave is out.
Musgrave for sure is out, but I thought Tucker Kraft went to the... Maybe it was Musgrave yesterday, but yeah, they added Tucker Kraft to the injury report yesterday.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the reason that he was so popular last week was price point, but also with Dobbs and Watson out, he just moved up the pecking
I just
order.
meant he may not even be considered, but the fact his price went up to 4,800 was already an issue anyway.
Any other receivers that you can see popping out to you of on the cheap end? In that stack, if you want to really go crazy with Atlanta and Carolina, Ray McLeod is $4,300, and he plays basically every snap.
Yeah, I agree. So he was the first one I was going to bring up. Bateman is still not super cheap, but he's the other guy there. I mean, Zay is going to pop for sure. We'll talk about him today, but Rashad Bateman is still there. They've been hitting him a little bit. And then Xavier Leggett, he's the other guy for Carolina. I guess we're watching to see. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is with Deontay. He's been questionable all week.
He's going to play.
He's going to play. So if you want to just leverage that and go to the same spot, if you're not on Chuba Hubbard for 25 or 30%.
How about Jalen Coker at $3,000, who's better than Leggett?
Maybe if you get there, I'm not joining you on a Darius Slayton call with him this week, but if you like him, yeah, go there.
I don't like him as much as I liked Slayton last week. It was pretty obvious to connect the tea leaves with Slayton for the opportunity. Whether he did anything, I have no idea. And it looks like Neighbors might not even play this week on Sunday night either.
Yeah, are you gonna chase it?
Of course.
Yeah.
Why not?
I think this week will be a Robinson week. Switch it back.
I mean, Robinson was all right last week. They throw the ball. It's against the Bengals D. There's enough to go around.
Yep, that is true. So yeah, I'm not with you as high on the other one, but I think for cheaper guys and stuff, that was sort of the ones you already hit on are the ones that popped up for me as well.
And Jacoby Myers still hasn't practiced. Obviously, no Devontae Adams, no Michael Mayer in this game. So you're going to get a ton of Brock Bowers. Trey Tucker's still $4,200 after busting last week. Then you have DJ Turner at $3,300, who's also on the injury report for the Raiders. Would you consider any Raiders outside of Bowers, let's say, against the Steelers D?
I'm looking at Madison still, just when we went back to the running back position, especially if there's no Zamir White.
So bad.
Yeah, it's again price point game. It's every picks and plays and who's good at football. It's not. When it comes down to it, it's who's actually scores and gets the fantasy points.
But why isn't Amir Abdullah, who's probably going to he's going to play every passing down essentially for the Raiders? Why wouldn't he be the better play in that spot?
Same reason all these better plays that people liked a bunch of weeks weren't the better play and the other guy scored, because it's a game. We're playing a game of DFS.
I understand that, but you have a cheaper running back who might get more opportunity and better opportunity.
Yeah, then put him in. That's the beauty.
I mean, I don't want to use either of them.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm not interested in to me it would be when we get to tight end here in a second. I'd have the most interest in Bowers probably, but just because of the way the slate's setting up and tight end being a onesie position, when you've got Ertz and Ferguson and guys like that I'm going to be using, even Cade Otton, some of these dudes, I'm probably going to just be more likely if I'm playing a Raider to play it at running back.
Is Otton the Tucker Kraft of the week? Same price, $3,500.
I don't know if he's as high because the pricing. Let me just see. I think Ertz is going to be $3,700 is the one people are plugging in once the week goes on. What do you see for ownership right now though? Because I see him lower than what I expected.
Yeah, I have Ertz down at 5%. It's probably because he's 8,000 years old.
Possibly, but
Ferguson, Freiermuth, Bowers, Juwan Johnson right now, because we don't know about the Taysom Hill situation. But I like your take on the Taysom Hill situation.
Yeah, so we talked. I think it was pre-show.
It was.
Yeah, pre-show. But we were talking about that, and I just think he helps that offense more than people know. I know it's always about him vulturing or how do they pay this dude, or he's not a real quarterback. He's a tight, all this other stuff. But I think he does help move that offense and make moves so that others can get open and find their way around. Guys like Kamara, Olave, etc. Shaheed has been the one that's been able to come through for them. But what I would love this week, and we've seen this work plenty of times, is if we could get Taysom Hill in. I think it's already better for the offense. And then I would love to play, which I never play Taysom Hill, but I would love to play Rattler and Taysom Hill for $8,000 at the two onesie positions you have to fill, right? You just play the cheap quarterback. You play him with the tight end that fills the spot that would make it move. Maybe it's Taysom Hill runs in 3 touchdowns that, and the yards he gets and other stuff and does some crazy, and Rattler gets 1. As a combo pack, though, that's still going to open things up for you a ton, and then you can really stack up your lineup at that point.
Ferguson is $5,000, projected to be the highest owned and projected the highest points per dollar as well. And even when you look at his optimal rate, it's still higher than his ownership right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you too, what do you see? I know we're on tight end, but we didn't talk about the high end and we'll get there. But do you see people going to CD Lamb, or do you see, because the cost of that game stack, which we'll get to when we do lineups later, being expensive, with Amon-Ra expensive, CD Lamb expensive? Do people look at Ferguson and go, I'm just going to get there that way? And maybe even Tolbert gets a boost because it saves them the money. They can still get the other plays that they want.
I think it depends on which side that you end up stacking. If you use Dak, you probably do bring CD along with it. I'm seeing around 13% right now, but Amon-Ra is higher than that. And it's very unlikely that you're going to see both those guys in a lineup together with one of those quarterbacks just because it's so expensive.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was asking for, and I think you've got it right there. And I think that even Dak and Jared Goff both will probably be held in check, but it will be linked to that. It's more likely that Dak is going to be CD lineups, and you're going to see Amon-Ra on the other. But it sounds like Amon-Ra will be in more non-Goff lineups as well, because people like him a little bit more than CD at this price.
I don't see any super cheap tight ends that I really like outside of Cade Otton. Like Juwan Johnson's fine if you need like 5 for 30 and maybe he scores a touchdown.
What about Hayden Hurst, 2,600?
Nah.
Okay. That was just the other one I was looking at there. He's been getting a few targets, but nothing crazy. But he's 2,600. But I'm not in love with it. I think I like the other spots we already talked about. And I guess the pay-ups this week, like Laporta is $500 more than Ferguson, but I see no ownership there, and it's in the exact same game.
I would use McBride as a bring back because I do want to stack up Green Bay if we can figure out how to do that. Because I think there's going to be a lot of points in that game, that he would be the one that I'd want to come back with on the other side and fill up that tight end slot for myself. Yeah. But other than that, it's pretty tough.
I like the McBride call quite a bit. So to me, I'm just not going to get too cute here, I don't think. Like, again, it's a onesie position. You have to play one, fill it out. I don't see the double tight end lineups this week or anything. So it's like Zach Ertz, Jake Ferguson, Trey McBride, Cade Otton.
The optimizer likes a double tight end lineup.
Oh, it always does. That's just the pricing and the way it sets up, but I'm not going to link to that. But the other, what's our guy Kyle Pitts at, 4,400?
Yeah, take a pass on that one. Hunter Henry would be the other one I'd have interest in.
We finally had a big Kyle Pitts game.
We did. If you play in season long, you should sell him.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Just like the big Mark Andrews game.
It wasn't very big. It was something
that was about as big as you're going to get with the amount of routes that he's running. Yeah, he's not out there.
It was tough. It was a tough scene. Was it last week when Jared Goff caught the touchdown? And it was like Jared Goff has more fantasy points.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was Jared Goff has more fantasy points than Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews, like all the names that people took early on in their drafts and whatnot. So it's just one of those things. But Kyle Pitts in those stacks, I will play as well because you have to fill the position. He's 4,400. If there's anything like last game, and I think everyone's going to be on, Mooney, London, Ray McLeod, Bijan. It's just a natural leverage play on the same stack that other people are going to.
Hunter Henry, I only bring up, he's $3,800 with Drake May starting. That, we've seen a lot of the times these rookie quarterbacks trying to get the ball out quickly, just throw it to the guy who's closest to the line of scrimmage. So Hunter Henry and Demario Douglas would make a lot of sense if you're just trying to pile up PPR points for a cheap price.
I actually agree, and I don't hate it. I just would say that and I think you're saying the same thing, but I would like him just on his own.
I completely agree.
Leave him. If people are thinking just so that they're wondering like, oh, you're putting him with Drake May. No, we're saying because of Drake May, we could like him just getting the checkdowns. And if you don't think the tight end position is going to blow up the slate this week because it's not great, we spend as much time as probably more time than we needed to on it, and we're already like, whatever, then that's the type of guy you want to just throw in there if that's how you feel about it.
Any DSTs? I know that you like to fill them out last, but any ones particularly stick out to you?
Yeah, I was looking at it here. I guess
if you could get to the Steelers at 37 against Aiden O'Connell and the depleted Raiders, that sounds great.
Yeah, it looks good on paper. I was trying to see what everybody else is doing here. It looks like Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa and Tennessee and the Ravens.
So Tampa's 2,600. Do you like that? Because this is the one you and I always talk about. Like Rattler, is he going to get unleashed or are they going to keep it safe?
I don't know. I'd rather play the Saints at 1/3 the ownership for $100 more and just hope that works out.
Yeah, so the teams I've got on my list right now, and again, I'll just plug them in as they fit, but the ones I have up top right now are the Ravens, the Saints, the Eagles, the Texans, and the Patriots. And that's where I landed. The Patriots are
the cheapest.
Very cheap. And against Houston, I'm fine with it. So Baltimore, just sort of another way. If you don't land on that game, we've talked about this plenty of times, where it's not that I think Jaden Daniels is incredible. We've watched what he's done already. It's that, can he make mistakes? Can they get opportunities out of him? Yes. And it is Baltimore at home. Big total, and people are excited for this game, but I just worry, like I said, if it does go down like that, it could be because of the Baltimore defense.
I actually like the pay up defenses this week. Steelers, Texans, and Eagles would be the ones that I'd be looking at. Hey, anytime you can take a defense against Deshaun Watson, it's not bad. Of like the mid tier, if I can find the money for the Packers, I probably will at $3,100.
So my two of my three were with you was the Eagles and the Texans, and then I went with the very cheap one in the Patriots. Just early thoughts. That's where I'm landing right now.
For almost about 2 decades, the irons were really the only good part of my golf game, unless you include 300-yard drives, which meant hitting it about 150 yards straight and 150 yards with slice into the woods to the right. So I finally went and got lessons, straightened out my swing, and all of a sudden I could drive the ball pretty decently, pretty straight. And then my irons just kind of went wayward with the new compression that I was getting onto the ball. So it was time for me to make a change with my irons. So when I heard about the new PXG Black Ops irons and how they can dramatically improve my game, I had to give them a try. Booked a fitting with the PXG location, brought in my current irons, and took the PXG challenge. The staff was amazing. We worked on my ball flight through TrackMan in order to find the perfect irons and the perfect length and the perfect loft for what my game demands these days. And the new Black Ops irons are incredibly easy to hit, they maximize performance, and they're fun. Oh, and they're only $149.99 a stick. That is a great price for a great golf iron. So take the PXG Irons Challenge. It's a ton of fun, and if PXG's new Black Ops irons don't outperform your current irons by delivering either more distance or tighter dispersion, that means better accuracy, during your fitting, you'll get a $250 MasterCards reward card. Hurry, this offer ends October 7th. Book your fitting today at pxg.com. That's pxg.com. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Supercharger, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. Let's get to some lineups on DraftKings and try to fill this out. The optimal this week, as we bring it up, Lamar Jackson is the quarterback in the optimal with Trey Sermon and Bijan Robinson. Sermon has been dealing with this collarbone injury. He missed practice on Wednesday. He returned to full practice on Thursday, so he should be fine to have the majority of the touches in the Colts backfield against the Titans D, who is pretty good, but he's $6,000. It's probably not someone I'm going to go out of my way to play, but
funny thing is, we didn't talk a lot about it, but Pollard is exactly $6,000. Opposite side of that game, super popular. Meanwhile, Sermon with no JT, opposite side behind one of the best, if not the best, O-lines in football, is the exact same price. That is a tournament move to just flip that and do it that way.
Bijan is the other running back with Mooney, Pickens, and Deontay Johnson at wide receiver. David Njoku at tight end. Wow. Gag me on that one. Jake Ferguson is the flex at $5,000 and Ravens D at $3,000.
Njoku, I can't even find him on my list. That's why, because it's like you say, gag me on that one, and it was Ravens D.
Yeah.
To round it out. So, all right, we got our starting point here. What do I got to type in?
So we have no Ravens with Lamar Jackson, which isn't the craziest thing in the world, I suppose.
It's like a running back DSC stack. It's Lamar with his D. Same thing, right? Basically, you're just using it with the quarterback. We did see it work before with Jalen Hurts, naked lineups, where it's just been Jalen Hurts and his defense.
Fields is probably the same way. We've probably seen some Bears Fields lineups where it's worked out that way.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, I'm fine with that. I guess one thing now that I look at it, again, I'm not going to get heavy on this, but if I landed there, so I'll bring up a disclaimer, is that I guess the Ferguson double tight end would make some sense if you think Ferguson's going to be the wide receiver for, you're just in your lineup construction, say like he's going to be the guy and he's going to get you 25 points or whatever, and you need somewhere else cheap. We don't have a lot of value on this slate, so I could see treating him like a receiver in the flex and just playing a cheap tight end and call it a day.
So how do we move this around?
Oh, man.
Do we let's start off with the Baltimore-Washington game then?
Yeah, I think you just clear it and put Baltimore-Washington stacks in.
All right.
Like, let's do that. Like, leave Lamar, I guess, is my point. And then just, if we have to go to Daniels, we have $500 that we can move down. Like,
right.
If we need money, we can move down to Daniels. But what are you thinking, Zay?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
I think the other thing, too, about this game is you got to think about what it actually looks like, because a secondary part of why I love this slate is because so many people that seem to love this game are going to it, but then I see sort of the optimizers and what they're doing early on, and they're giving you like Lamar, Zay, McLaurin, that's it. Well, if this game's really going to go off, those are getting passed by a mile when the rest of the dudes go off to cause the scoring. So really, people are usually into heavy overstacking. I just don't see them doing it as much right now with this one. But if you went like Lamar or Jaden Daniels, get old man Ertz in there, get McLaurin in there, get Zay Flowers and Bateman. Like, you really, if you overload it, you're going to just dominate and run away with it because nobody's really doing that. They're picking between Zay and Bateman. They're picking between, do I use this quarterback or this quarterback? You can only use one, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, they're not really going all in.
I think my favorite way to do it is Daniels, Henry, Ertz. And then we can figure out the rest of it from there. But those would be the three guys. Not that I like Ertz, but he's $3,700. You can use him at tight end. No big deal. Like, McLaurin makes the most sense. I have no idea who the other receiver to put with Jaden Daniels would be. It could be Diami Brown. It could be Zacchaeus. If Noah Brown plays, it could be him. It could be Luke McCaffrey. Or it could be none of those guys.
Yeah.
Because they all end up with like 3 for 30 and nothing, and Jaden Daniels runs it in. Or Austin. Let's say Brian Robinson misses the game. Would you use Eckler?
I think he's interesting. Another way to get different in this game. I just thought Brian Robinson's priced up a little bit too much, obviously, as a way to get unique in this game. And it is a morning game, so it's not like you can late swap to this. So it's twofold. You can't really late swap off. You got to make that decision early if that's going to be a leverage point for you in this game, whether it's Robinson playing at a higher price or Eckler if Robinson's out. Then yes, that probably picks up some steam, makes people feel a lot better now about that side. But back to your original point, that is what's tricky about the Jaden Daniels side, and why I told you earlier I like Ertz, because I feel like you can just plug them, call it a day. Even if Ertz doesn't fully come through, it could be that gave you the money, and that's why you're on Daniels, who came through to a bunch of McCaffreys or whoever else,
and rushed into,
and you're like, no one was getting to those, and they wasted their stacks on those plays where they didn't have as good of a certainty. Versus on the Ravens side, I feel like when you have Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Bateman, Likely, or Andrews, whatever you choose, it's at least you just feel better about stacking that side up and then going the other way with it. And I'd like the overstack on that side.
If you overstack it, like the easy way to do it from this start that we have with Daniels, Henry, and Ertz is just add Flowers and McLaurin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you do that, what does that leave us?
Flowers only 65 and McLaurin is 64. That leaves us $4,500. We'll throw in Titans D at 28 right now.
All right.
So it leaves us $5,100 left for a running back, a wide receiver, and a flex.
I think it's just going to be like Pollard, Chuba, and then your 3K guy. Even it's still hard. I was going to say there's no value really at running back this week. Last week we had Tracy. We had some more guys in the 5K range. You just really don't. Javonte Williams, I mentioned earlier, 5,500. Najee, 58. But that's what's forcing people into these options. Because this type of build, even if, I guess Henry would be left out. That's the issue here. Most people that build this aren't going to play Henry in it, which was my point earlier why it could be a good thing. But you got to find the value to make it work.
Well, who are the receivers that we can use in the 4K range? Maybe that's the next logical spot to go look at.
Oh, man. Ray McLeod.
Ray McLeod, Quentin Johnston, who's been basically pretty good every game but one.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to play him much.
Trey Tucker at 42.
Feel good about it. Trey Tucker, yeah.
Do we go with Trey Tucker? He was such a dud.
I like Adonai Mitchell, but that's why I don't care about the defense. The Titans D is in there, but I really like Mitchell here. So he's 3,900, and you could put him with Pollard and just pick the D later, for example.
I suppose. I don't know. I don't love it. I think I'd rather go with like Tucker. That gets us up to 55. Is there a flex somewhere right around 5,000 we can use to get us up to one of those? I guess Mooney's down there. Javonte Williams is there. No, Javonte Williams is 55. Mm-hmm. Jamal Williams is 52. Probably don't want to do that.
Yeah, even if you just go with what you had and you put Tucker and Javonte Williams, you have 5,600 for a flex, which
We have 5,600 for a flex if we do that.
yeah, and it's Eckler if you want to
Shah-
add another
Shaheed?
piece, but yeah, we don't want to do that probably. So
Javonte and Shaheed.
yeah, if you like this, I mean,
I don't.
yeah, I don't love this at all, but it's just it's to each their own. Like I would play Tony Pollard and the Pats D before I would play Shaheed in Tennessee.
Okay, so I just don't like Tony Pollard all that much.
Yeah, it's like you can flip and play Sermon on the other side, which is what the optimal had.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's play Sermon on that side. Then we have a DST and a flex. So what's the minimum we can get to here?
But like,
So 5,500 would be our cap if we use Patriots D.
I just put Javonte in, just
Yeah.
what you had earlier, just to call it a day and just get a lineup out of it. But the facts are pretty clear on this one. It's Derrick Henry's hampering your build. And you need
Yes.
Derrick Henry to have the big day. He's $8,000. If he has the big day, it should make it so those other guys are passing, but it also would cut into some Zay Flowers possibly. Again, unless, to my original point, why I don't hate something like this, it feels uncomfortable, but this is building for if you truly think this game goes off. Like, that's the whole point here. Everyone's like, oh, that game's going to be nuts. And then just plugging in Jaden Daniels, McLaurin, and Zay Flowers and calling it a day. Can that work? Yes. But remember, in large field tournaments, if that game does go nuts, there's a higher likelihood that someone has the full game stack that just passes you by. And you're like, oh, I had the right game, but I didn't have all the right pieces. That's pretty standard for people to talk about.
All right, I'll enter that one. And I want to go to the two stacks that I want to try to work out here. Philly is the first one. Leaving Barkley by the wayside, Hurts, and A.J. Brown.
Okay.
Because A.J. Brown is obviously very expensive, but he's going to be way less owned than CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra for sure.
For sure,
at
he's
the
gonna be,
very
yeah.
top. And, there's been so much discourse this week about his hamstring. He's fine. And this is the type of defense that he absolutely lights up.
Oh, yeah. He made the tidbits this week, so he's in them. And this is the way to do it, I think. Or just you can go Jalen Hurts naked, but I like it with A.J. Brown. And if A.J. Brown has a big game, it's very similar to what we talked about, I think it was last week, but like when Chase has a big game, Burrow's coming along. Like when Chase has 2 touchdowns for 150 plus or whatever it is, like that's just Burrow is just coming along for the ride. This is an interesting game stack because it does set up or a stack to start with. Because like I said, Jalen Hurts is $100 less than Jaden Daniels.
Is there any Brown you would want?
So I would just still trust Amari Cooper, but it's ugly.
Do you need it, do you think?
I don't think you do at all. No.
Okay, so let's not do that.
Yeah, you don't have to stack this back at all. You're already playing a quarterback that's under the 2 popular ones in the big game that we just hit on, and you're playing A.J. Brown, who's way less owned than the Detroit-Dallas game stack later. I think that's a talking point, though, just to the last lineup and to this one. Why I said I love this slate so much, so I guess I'll go back to it for a second, is I really feel like it's clear cut. There's only 10 games on this slate. I'm not crossing games out on purpose. We know we can get leverage and low-owned plays and situational stuff within some of these spots. My Adonai Mitchell is not in the best game, but it's where people are playing a Pollard. Maybe you have something on the opposite side or something like that. But Atlanta, Carolina, Green Bay, Arizona, Detroit, Dallas, we need to be trying to fit these in, and then Washington, Baltimore. So if you're starting with Philly, you're not going to be able to fit them all in probably. You don't have to, but you should be starting next up saying, okay, if I'm saying it's not Jaden Daniels and Lamar going off here, what happened in that game then? Because they got a 51.5 point total. There's probably some points scored somewhere. So what do we do next? Is it Zay Ertz and hope that it's just a little bit of passing to 2 guys? Or do we go to Henry, but that's really expensive. We already have the 7,800 Brown. That's how you should be thinking about the next steps of your build when you're doing it this way.
So I plugged in Mitchell because you seem to like him. And
Okay.
3,900 was a great success for us last week at wide receiver.
Oh, that's another key point there. You
There we
found
go.
it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't have Slayton last week, I would have won $0. Instead, I broke even.
Yeah, that was an awesome game for Slayton, man. Just so cool. And when everyone starts tagging you and getting hyped behind it, and then he just keeps going off, I was like, wow, this is actually nuts. He did break the slate, and he ended up on the actual optimal lineup, not just the winning lineup.
That's perfect. Well, I saw a bunch of people had we built one of the lineups on the show last week. It was Burrow, Higgins, Chase with Henry.
We had Henry.
And then Slayton as the cheap guy to save all the money. That core smash.
We had the 5-man core. The winning lineup was that, but it was there was one that had Zay instead of Henry. It had Kenneth Walker as a secondary. So that's how we build, though. It was good to see that the good builds still get to the top. I remember week 2 when everyone was like, "Oh, stacking's done. It's not, this is not how you play DFS anymore." And sure enough, the world comes full circle. We're all good.
So if we plug in Mitchell, we have 5,100 left. Obviously, we can save with the defense or another cheap player if we want to. Where would you want to go at running back here? Just all options are on the table.
I want to know what you think of the running backs in the Green Bay Arizona game, or what you think. I know you want to stack it up after, and we will. It's obviously a little bit tricky when we don't have all the news, but let's say we get all the news. I feel like the news is going to lean still more to people wanting that passing game when they're going there versus the running. Do you like Jacobs? That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's not very convincing, but I will say like that would be an option within that game. But if you like the passing game, like you mentioned McBride, I think this lineup's a bit tricky because obviously you're paying up at quarterback, paying up at wide receiver. There's not much value at running back, so you might have to do something a little bit different. But I do think we want to target these other games. Like, for example, when you're not going to Atlanta, Carolina as a starting point, which many are, it seems, or at least putting something in.
Do we like Chuba Mooney? Chuba London?
Yeah, like do you like Chuba and either one of Ray or Mooney is what I was thinking.
I mean, I like Ray and Mooney good enough. Obviously, I like Mooney more just objectively than Ray, but price point being what it is. Yeah, let's put in Chuba and try to find the Falcon that goes with him.
So since we know so this is another take I would say when we're building our lineups, we can just chill for a second on that wide receiver slot because we know we want to fill it with one of Mooney or Ray. But let's figure out the next stage of our lineup. Defense can be last. Wide receiver can be last. We have a tight end, a running back, and a flex. And we've got multiple games, one being Detroit-Dallas that we haven't even talked about, that you probably want some points out of, or Washington-Baltimore. This is where you got to make a decision.
Do you? I think I'd rather go to Detroit and Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Ferguson with Montgomery.
For Ferguson with Gibbs or Montgomery.
Okay, so I think it's for sure Ferguson. So again, people are... trying to take these lineups and put them in. We say this every week, new viewers every week, so it sounds repetitive probably to some, but just to say it, that's my point, is now we know what we want to put in our wide receiver slot, or we think we do, one of Mooney or Ray McLeod. We know what we want to put in our running back slot, one of Montgomery or Gibbs. We know defense can come last, but we've only got 49.50. So now we have to start playing with the pieces. So do you, again, you can do this way.
I already have Mitchell in this lineup at 39.
I've got him in there.
Okay, so
I'm talking about him. But do you want to go Gibbs and then see if it's McLeod that you need?
Yeah. Let's put Gibbs in first. I like him more than Montgomery especially in a tournament, pure upside purposes there.
And then so I think that causes you to almost need a little bit of the savings. We'll see if we can get the money later. We will. But if you put Ray McLeod and fill out the two things we were discussing, that leaves you 42.50. Now you can look at your defense if you want, right? If you want to see, like you liked... I
like Green Bay, and we don't have them in at all. That gives us $5,400 for a flex. Does that give us enough for anyone, is the question. Who's 54? Goodson? Yeah, probably don't want that. I mean, Bucky Irving is the answer to this if Rachaad White is out.
Right? So
he becomes the guy in this spot.
Plug that in as like a maybe for later, but I think that's what we're doing. And I also love that you went Green Bay, because even though you went it just because you love it, but that was also... Or you like it, I should say.
Get you access to that game.
Correct. Everything we've been talking about, right? That's why I said it was going to be that. I actually liked if you were going to go to Green Bay or Baltimore, and I think they're pretty similar in price. It doesn't matter, but my point was more if you were going that route, yeah, it's $100 in the difference.
Which gets you Javonte Williams if you want him.
Yeah, which I like.
Which he never scores a touchdown, but he gets like 100 yards every week. So maybe some week he will score a touchdown.
Yeah, and I really like that play because it's just, again, it's not about the play, it's about the lineup play I'm talking about, like how we handled it, because now that puts us in the spot where we feel like it's a thoughtful build that covers a lot of the angles that all make sense, and we already had Javonte mixed in earlier. It's not like we were against this guy. We think he's fine, and it projects pretty well. Let me see what the optimal was originally with, was it with Baltimore? Did this actually, the only thing is I will say on my stuff, like Trey Sermon doesn't pop at all. Now for projection.
Okay.
So what do you have as projection at?
The baseline,
medium projection
for Trey Sermon is...
Because I'll add those points and count against
Sermon is 10.94.
So this lineup projects 2.5 points less than the optimal, but man, this is way better to what we want than a Njoku double tight end with all this other stuff. And it still covers a lot of the angles. Again, I think people out there wondering, but you can't get every game in, but we've got
Philly.
the only thing we're missing is Green Bay, Arizona, because we chose that because the $100 less to get to Baltimore to cover that game. We were leaving out Green Bay, Baltimore, or Green Bay, Arizona, or Washington, Baltimore. We ended up saying we prefer Javonte Williams over the 5,400. But I think, Pat, if you got Bucky Irving, then we just go back to the Packers and just hope that the Washington, Baltimore game is either a bunch of dudes that nobody has, like
Kohler.
Your
Ricard.
the Kohler Bear, yeah, for them, Ricard, anything like that where it just doesn't fully go off and or it stays under. And so I would like the Bucky Irving version better if Rachaad White was out and we just go to Green Bay D here. You could still leave $100 on the table and keep it with Baltimore D if you don't care about the Green Bay game. Same thing.
All right, so let's throw that one in. Now let's go to Jordan Love in Green Bay. I mean, there is a case you could just use the Kyler Murray side of this as well if you really wanted to. Love's cheaper, and I think he's better.
Yeah, before we go to the quarterback, just a quick question is how you sort of, from the information you take in, you do these injury tidbit things every day and go through it all. Like, where do you see it right now? I know it's only Friday, but like, where do you think this offense lands as far as the wide receivers?
Reed's the one you want.
Yeah.
Reed's always the one you want.
And do you think these other dudes play, or do you think it ends up being that we go back to Wicks?
No,
or like what ends up happening?
Dobbs plays for sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain.
Off the
I mean,
suspension.
for sure. He's not injured.
No.
And he's back at practice. He's probably playing. Watson's the only one that really seems to have concern right now, whether or not he goes. If he doesn't go, I think Wicks is a great play. If he plays, then I'm a bit iffy on it. How much is Wicks?
I'd have to.
He's $5,200. So you could go Love, Reed, Kraft, Love, Reed, Wicks.
I like also to tell you that I like the Love side better.
So do I.
So, and what you did originally too, but just when you mentioned you could go Kyler, I actually prefer to go the Love side if you're doing it.
I mean, you could just go easy here. Love, Reed, McBride.
Yeah.
Call that a day. Zay Jones looks like he's not going to play this week in his first game eligible back from suspension. So I guess you could use Michael Wilson again if you wanted at 46, if you needed the savings from this game.
Yeah. The difference in this game versus the Washington-Baltimore point that I made earlier is if you do just go Love, Reed, McBride, you're already pretty unique outside of Reed. Reed looks to be a little bit popular, but I think that'll come down as the week goes on when we get more injury news. But I don't expect to be passed by a super team stack in this game as much as I do in the Washington-Baltimore game. So when people have their Jaden with Ertz and with Zay, it's like you're in big trouble if that 5-man stack goes off because people are going to have variations of it for the big game. I don't think there's going to be as many variations for this game. So I kind of like just the skinny stack with the run back with McBride here and just using it up for that way. So I do like the setup that you started with.
How do you feel about Xavier Hutchinson at $3,300? Presumably taking over for the Nico Collins role. Robert Woods is injured, although he more or less fills in for Tank Dell and Steph Diggs if they were to go down anyway. So it's going to be Hutchinson playing the vast majority of these snaps.
What is he, 3,300?
3,300.
God, I didn't, on my early run, I didn't get to a lot of them, but he did show up a little bit, but I show way more of the guys slightly higher, like the
Mitchells,
Adonai Mitchells, the Ray McLeods, I guess it's a guy that's there. I liked him more last year. I liked him on like showdown slates and stuff like that, but man, there is some injury stuff. So I guess if you had to land on a guy, it's a possibility there at 3,300.
Yeah, it's probably better than I like Jalen Coker enough, but he's still the third receiver on Carolina going up against a pretty decent secondary. It didn't look that way in the Thursday night game that we saw 10 days ago now or 11 days ago now against the Buccaneers. But I think that having the third receiver potentially or even higher, because Tank Dell doesn't look like he's operating at 100% for the Texans, is probably a better idea.
Yeah, I'm in my head about these Jalen Coker jokes. Might sniff a few lineups this week and see, but I don't know. I'm not as high on him as you. So I think the original starting point to this stack is good. And then I guess, like I said, going back to the thoughtful process of where do you go next, knowing that we don't have Detroit, Dallas yet. We don't have Atlanta. We just don't have the target games. And that's what my focus is going to be this week.
Okay, so let's do Detroit, Dallas. We've already used Gibbs and Ferguson in a different lineup. Do you want to go a different route? Maybe Tolbert and Jamison Williams here?
Yeah, that'd be an interesting way to go for sure.
So we'll go.
And we need value, so it's kind of the setup there.
Jamison Williams is 58 and
10-8 for a little combo pack there that you get a secondary stack in that game. Neither of them necessarily would cause the other quarterback to break the slate or something. Like if Williams has a 6 for 110 in one game, that's amazing. But does that actually mean something for Jared Goff? It's something, but if nothing else goes with it, that could be all you need. Same with Tolbert, could have like 6 for 100 and 0 and still be all right with the bonus and something like that at that price point. So I'm good with starting there. And that leaves you 5K almost, and you haven't even put a cheap D in yet.
Yeah, well, let's throw in a D right now. Let's throw in, I don't know, Saints D. And they're at 50. They're $2,700. That gives us 5,800 left per player, just to give us a sense of where we're at. We can always move off of that.
Right.
So Hubbard.
If you do Hubbard, we can go there again.
So we need another running back, and then it looks like we might have to cheap out at flex. It depends on how cheap at flex you want to get.
What do you want to do with Washington, Baltimore? Anything here?
Eckler?
Can we? Yeah, maybe Eckler. How much is he?
Eckler's 56. So even if Brian Robinson plays, if this is a pass-heavy game, obviously he's not operating at 100%. He'll probably steal goal line touches if he's in. And we even saw that when he left the game last week, more during garbage time, that McNichols was the one who came in. Yeah. But Eckler was still coming off a concussion in that game too. Now he's a week removed from that after playing, that if Brian Robinson is limited or doesn't play, Eckler just becomes a great play.
Yeah, if you put Eckler in, you can actually play Wicks or Dobbs and round out the triple stack. And then you can play, I don't know who you would play over those guys, but you could also play the Tennessee defense that you were on earlier.
I think everyone's on the Tennessee defense.
Well, they are. I'm saying, but I think in this lineup, you can easily get away with it if you like it better than the Saints. I don't know if you do. I was just saying it's definitely projecting slightly better.
Yeah, let's use Titans.
It's there, and then you just finish out your stack. But who would you go with, Dobbs or?
I'd go with Wicks over Dobbs.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that Watson's going to be that effective, even if he plays. Might see limited snaps coming off the injury, which would mean more for Wicks. And I always like Wicks better when Dobbs is playing.
And Romeo's in the Dobbs house because he got off the suspension. So
you've been jotting these down in your notebook all week. You got
think about the one-liners as you go along. That's all. But the setup here, this is kind of nice. Like it's probably 7 points less than the optimal if my math is right. But Jordan Love, Wicks, Reed, no run. Oh yeah, you got Trey McBride on the other side. The Detroit, Dallas, the Washington piece, the Chuba Hubbard.
No Baltimore.
That's fine because you got Eckler doing the work in that game, and that would maybe slow it down or score some points that way and hurt some of the other guys too.
You know who you could use at 52 if you didn't want to use Wicks?
Yes. Who?
Justice Hill.
All right. So put Jameson Williams back in to the wide receiver slot because he was getting pushed to the flex because of the late game.
Yep.
And then you go to Justice Hill.
And that gets you a Raven to go with Eckler. And you have the two secondary running backs who can both be the number one running backs in terms of DraftKings points.
Yeah, people will hate it and projections won't love it as much. But if you can have, Chuba Hubbard and Swift go off in a game that had whatever little amount of points, it's again, we always talk about this. It's not the game points, it's the fantasy points. This actually has a huge total. And what if it is just those two guys getting you enough to make it work? And it's really what they do for the rest of your lineup.
If Robinson ends up being out, obviously people are going to use Eckler. There's no circumstance where people are like, got to play Justice Hill this week. Like no one's jamming him in.
Yeah, I wonder if, I don't know how much you think about Rachaad White and Robinson, but like if both those guys are out, people are starving for value. Bucky Irving definitely skyrockets up the board. People will want a piece of the Washington game. You could actually see lineups starting with those two running backs and then building around it.
Would you have, if Brian Robinson misses the game, any chance you would get to Jeremy McNichols at $4,500, who's been good in relief and is used near the goal line?
It's unlikely just because, but I get it.
Okay.
If you land there.
So no.
How much is he?
You can say no. It's fine.
Well, things change as the week goes on. Obviously, if that injury comes up, but how much is he? Did you say
4,500?
Yeah, like I'm getting 0 right now, obviously. So
we'll yeah, there'd be no reason to play him right now if you project Brian Robinson to be in. But if he's out,
yeah, I'm just looking at like more so what's around him. That's what I'm trying to see, and I don't see. Man, the value pricing maybe because running back is so tough right now, but it would also depend on that other stuff we just talked about. If Bucky Irving becomes a thing at 5,400, I don't care what the matchup is. That's $5,400.
You play him,
yeah, and he's got upside. So I'm going to be more in on something like that. So yeah, I don't have love there, but I think this lineup is interesting as is, and even the version before too with the triple stack. So I like that build.
Next game to go to, Texans. May.
No,
okay.
I don't have interest in that one. I would build your guy up, Will Levis, the Mayo man.
I was going to say the other side. Isn't the other side easier? You use Pollard, you use Adonai Mitchell, you use Pierce, and you use Anthony Richardson.
too many guys. I would just use Levis, Ridley, or Hopkins, probably Ridley, and then Adonai Mitchell. And you got a free mini stack, and you can start jamming values in. So that one, the reason this one's interesting to me, I'll just start one off for us for once here. Just let me see. Levis, give me Ridley, and give me Mitchell. This one's the one I want to see. Because now what I want to do
is see if you can jam in all the studs.
Well, I want to jam in for sure the first two running backs we talked about and get away from some of those loser ones like you didn't like the mid-range. So I want to go right to Barkley and Henry.
Okay.
Right off the top, and give me the two of the big dogs. I'll plug in either of their defenses at the end if I want to round it out. Maybe I just go with Zach Ertz across from Henry. I am going to test the Philly D. I usually put him in last, but I just want to see what that 2v2 looks like. So I have a wide receiver and a flex with 6,150. But again, now thinking about it, what am I missing here? Okay, I kind of got it, I think. Let me see. If I go Deontay Johnson.
You're going to say Mooney, Deontay Johnson?
I was hoping something like that, but who is 6,200? J.K. Dobbins?
Oh, I don't mind that, actually.
What's 6,000? I'm just trying to look here too.
6,000 Sermon, Cooper.
Yeah, I can't. I mean,
Bowers.
At wide receiver, but I guess the first version I found.
You could get Dowdle in there if you wanted a piece of the Cowboys game.
So this one projects really good. It was Dobbins. It was what you said, Dobbins and Deontay Johnson. And you've got Levis to Ridley, run back with Adonai Mitchell. You've got the Washington-Baltimore game with Henry, Zach Ertz. You got a piece of the Atlanta-Carolina game with Deontay Johnson just racking up the targets. You got no Jalen Hurts in here, so you go to Barkley with the Philly D going up against Watson, who's been horrible. And then you get J.K. Dobbins, who could be in a better spot here as the week goes on, but right now it's probably still fine. And obviously you can finagle this like to a different version, but just wanted to run through that quick to show it.
So it's not so much that you like Will Levis, it's that he's $4,800.
It's what he can do for you. Yeah, like that's the whole point. 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I mean, we're talking less than 14K for a quarterback, a wide receiver, 1 or 2. I mean, Hopkins and Ridley can have their games pretty similar in my status or stance, sorry. And then Mitchell on the other side at 3,900 just makes that all work. And now you get off those mid-range running backs.
The mid-range running backs are tough. Do you like the next level down running backs? Like we haven't even talked about Kamara at all. And this is usually the good time to play him when everyone is now off of him.
Yeah, the thing was though, until again now it's probably going to change because I guess he hit the injury report yesterday or something. It's probably just, who knows?
He's going to play.
He's going to play, but he was still popular before yesterday. I know his ownership's come down a little bit since then, but I was still seeing him up pushing 15 to 20% range. And who knows how the rest of the week goes, but
what if we started with Connor and Jacobs?
Yeah, let's do that.
68, 67, same game, going back against each other.
I'm fine with that type of spot.
People like the passing offense in this game. I don't love these guys, but I can see how this makes sense.
This is more of like what we saw last week with the Swift and Hubbard.
Yeah.
And Hubbard didn't get the bonus, or it would have been even better.
He almost got there.
Yards.
He needed one more carry to get to that bonus.
Yeah. We got screwed last night on Mason too, by the way.
Well, yeah.
Did you?
You got hurt.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, had the overs on that?
Yeah, well, Underdog was very good about that. They
did take care of him.
They voided him.
They rescued
him, yes.
That is the proper terminology. But I will say, I also saw, because he was like 73.5 in a lot of places. When he went out, they had him at 74.
And they adjusted it?
They adjusted it to 73 on the final number. I was like,
Listen, I get that people get mad about these things. I had a bunch of Jordan Mason hires as well, especially on Underdog. But just the amount of people that legitimately think it's rigged that he came out of the game is mind-boggling.
What was the craziest one you heard?
It was just like, obviously they called into Vegas and they said that, when they put him back in the game, someone made a call and said they had to get him out of there. Look, he's on the sidelines. He's fine.
Yeah, I was told that they called Vegas at halftime because he had to play the second half for at least one snap so that all the bets could count. And then they pulled him out of the game right after that. So it was all set up. Just hilarious that this stuff still exists in the year 2024. But yeah.
So what do we want to put around this? I guess is the question.
I think we've went mid-tier enough that you can kind of get a bunch of stacks that could go around it. So when someone's at home hand building this out and looking at it, if that's going to be your starting point.
How about this? Stroud? Hutch.
Okay.
And Henry.
And Henry?
Yeah, Hunter Henry.
Yeah, let's do it.
So now we have 5,600 for 2 receivers and a flex. Obviously, we'll pay down at D to whatever it is.
Do you want your Tolbert Jameson Williams again?
I don't know if we
Jameis
have.
Williams.
I think we can go more expensive than that if we need to. We could go like McLaurin Zay Flowers if we wanted to.
Let's do that. Yeah. Let's try and keep this in check, but still covering our bases.
And then you can play, I don't know.
What are we missing here? I would pick like your Gibbs play. Can you play him?
I don't know if you can get to Gibbs.
2,500 left over.
You can go Najee Steelers D.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah, perfect. What's wrong with that?
It's a bunch of crappy players.
Yeah, it is, but this lineup is, again, it's more about covering your angles. That's what I mean. It's people worry so much why all we do at Shipping Nation spend time talking about process. It doesn't even matter. Like when you have even if you have a portfolio of 150 lineups and you have 6 quarterbacks in there, 5 quarterbacks of your portfolio, all those lineups with those 5 quarterbacks are going to the deathbed, right? They're done. Only if you have one quarterback that hits and is the guy needed last week, Burrow or bust. That simple. If you didn't have Burrow, you were busto. Put that one on the paper too. So if you didn't have that, you're dead. This is the same thing. The Stroud lineup, probably dead. But if it's not, you got one in the tank, and that's the lineup, right? There's nothing wrong with what you've put around it. You've covered your Green Bay, Arizona. You've covered your Washington, Baltimore. You have no Carolina, Atlanta, no Detroit, Dallas, but you could finagle it to get that in there. You could easily swap it around. The Harris with one of those running backs or something you could change around.
Not a great lineup.
Let me just do this for a second. Harris, Pittsburgh, just to give people an idea. We'll pick and choose between Dobbins and them. You like Gibbs, you said, right?
I do like
You
Gibbs.
prefer Gibbs. So let's do this for a second. If we were going opposite Gibbs, let's just use who's the guy we used earlier? Tolbert?
Yeah, you could use Kevontae Turpin too.
Let's use Tolbert though for a second. And now I want to pull. Well, actually, let me use Lamb for a second.
Wait, who are we pulling here?
I'm seeing if you can finagle this lineup to make it so that you can still cover another game that people want to and get away with it. And it's not quite possible without making some moves here.
Well, no, because we used Connor and Jacobs as...
You'd be easily pulling one of those. I'm saying you don't need a running back versus running back. You can get a piece of that game by just having one of those running backs.
I mean, there's a very easy answer to this, I think.
I don't know if I can get to Tolbert.
You can get to Tolbert or Ferguson.
Without having too much left at defense, is
Let's
what I'm
see
saying.
here.
Yeah, 4,800 left.
Ferg at 5, who's 49. Then we get to Jameson Williams. Wait, is that Javonte? That's Javonte Williams.
So what do you got here?
And then we lose back down to Tennessee D. So instead of using Dak, or instead of using Stroud, you use Dak with Ferguson and Jameson Williams. So you just kind of flip it back over to Dallas.
I'm missing one spot though, because I have $600 left. So where did I miss?
Prescott, Connor, Jacobs, Flowers, McLaurin, Hutchinson, Ferguson, Jameson Williams, Titans D.
So you kept Connor in.
Connor and Jacobs.
Yep. And then you got Hutchinson, McLaurin, Zay.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of Tolbert, you have
Ferguson and Jameson Williams.
Okay, just one sec. How much is Jameson Williams?
He's 5,800. Remember, there's like 8 J Williams on the slate. You probably put in Jamal Williams, who's $600 cheaper than Jameson.
I still had Najee in there at the same price, but it's better because we're flipping it to get the opposite side and just move it around some. And so, yeah, like that projects really well. And that's just a way that you flipped it, but you still kept X Hutch in there as a piece of your Houston game, but just said, will X Hutch really crush it enough that it makes Stroud valuable?
No, probably not.
Probably not needed. So, I mean, it could be, but you probably need even more with it. It's probably like a Diggs Hutchinson, something that made Stroud go off and he ran one in or something. And then instead, you're able to get to the Detroit-Dallas game here with just a mini stack of Prescott, Ferguson, Jameson Williams. You got the secondary, the other one. You got the other game covered, and you got the Tennessee D against Indy. The only thing you're missing is Atlanta, Carolina. Guess what? Those two teams can be really bad at times. So that's, again, and hard to get right when you've got Bijan, Tyler Algier situation. Mooney, McLeod, London, Pitts. Tough. Carolina, we don't even know what's going on, but it's like if it's Deontay and Hubbard, they're super owned. Maybe they just have that sort of mid-range, median type game, and these guys end up being the ceiling. So I love this lineup, actually.
So let's do full Detroit-Dallas. Which side do you like better?
Just overstacking it completely?
Yeah. Five-man stack.
Definitely to the Dak side.
The Dak side would be cheaper. Do you put Lamb in it for sure? Yes or no?
Let's do it for this this spot.
Great. So Dak and Lamb
And Ferguson.
So the three expensive pieces.
The tricky is here.
Could you do Laporta instead of Ferguson and use Tolbert?
Yes,
Let's do that.
definitely. We're trying to overstack it anyway and use more spots. Who does, do you know, like when Laporta has big games, are they running it with Monty or Gibbs? Like what's usually involved?
I mean, Laporta hasn't had a big game so far this season, so who knows?
Yeah, I was trying to think back. I guess, okay. So one thing I will say too about this, just setting it up for the same frame of everything we've done with this show already, is when you're on this as the 52-point game, well, it's nice to get some Washington-Baltimore in there if you could. You absolutely don't have to, and you could just cop out with a Austin Eckler play and hope that Robinson, if you even wanted to get a piece of that game, or you could just play the Baltimore D later on at 3K.
Let's do that. Let's just shove in Baltimore D right now and say that's the exposure we're getting to that game. That sucks, but that's the way it's going to have to be.
You're my favorite, but one of the what's the thing? Love someone as much as Pat loves putting a defense in before anything else. It's literally my new favorite.
I don't even like the Ravens D.
I know. I love that you always love to put a D. You're like, all right, let's go to defense right away. It's like, let me get a D.
I feel like it's the one thing that I do well is pick defenses.
You do, and it's a running bit for us of not a bit even of the truth that we've always talked through defenses, and you give explanations that are thoughtful, and how everyone else just says, it's just whatever, like me.
And then you play Carolina and win money.
It can happen, but then you lost money on them last week. You needed the Giants at the same price, or Denver, which was popular. But it's just funny that in season long, which you've done a ton of content on in the past, and still is everyone's always waiting until the end to pick their D, and if their league still somehow has a kicker, like those things are at the very end. In DFS, you are always like, all right, let's throw this D in here, man. Let's go. But what do we got? What's next on the agenda here? What do we want to cover?
Running backs. So obviously we can't get up to the very high end of guys. Do we want to use a Gibbs or Montgomery here? Or do we want to use a Jameson Williams or an Amon-Ra or whoever it might be? Amon-Ra is probably a bit too expensive for this lineup.
I think these running backs could run all over Dallas. It's possible. And so I would like to get one of those in there as well.
All right, let's use Montgomery.
Okay, let's do that. Not that Gibbs is that much more if you needed to find it later, but sure. I like this call. So let's do that.
We're at 49 right now. Of the cheap guys that we've talked about so far, between Ray, Mitchell, and I guess Hutchinson would be the other one that I do think should be on people's radar. Which one would you want to throw in, or do we think about that last and fill out the rest of our lineup?
I think just back to it for a second. We got Detroit, Dallas more than covered. We're in on that. Do you want to get Atlanta, Carolina, or do you want to get some Arizona, Green Bay?
Atlanta, Carolina is easier.
Yeah, I guess one thing we didn't talk about all show. Are you on Bijan at all?
No, I'm not.
So then that solves it. So let's go Hubbard. And now we can use our last spot to our advantage because we just click the two versions of it. So if we go
Hubbard, Ray, or Hubbard
London, we can't do it. 1,700. Mooney is 3,100. Can't even be our guy Hutch, but Ray gets us 4,100, and we could boost that. Okay, so this is where I would also say, Pat, we can.
So this is not good.
No, but let's solve this then. Move off McLeod back to Mooney, who I kind of like better anyway. And now get the Ravens D out of there because who cares?
And get Hutchinson?
Yeah. We definitely like everything we've talked about, and Hutch is fine. He's our value.
And Titans D.
And you even get the Titans D, which it's not like it's our favorite. We're just saying we knew why they were popular for a reason. It keeps your projection up. And again, when I said from the start, you don't have to have Baltimore, Washington when you're jamming 5 guys from a 52-point total. You're telling the story in your lineup that this is going to smash that game and that game's going to be unneeded.
Yeah, if you bet the over and are convinced that the over is coming in on Washington, Baltimore, I would suggest you just play all of your lineups with them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would overstack that game if you think it's going to be the spot that's really going to go off, but we think it's going to be this one in this lineup. This is the story we're telling. Our guy Hutch is going to come through for us like Slayton did last week. He's the guy, the X factor.
So you like the Dallas side better than to stack up than the Detroit side?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
It's almost the same price. Like you got to pay $6,400 for Goff, or you can get Dak for $300 more. I think we go Dak.
Any interest in Tampa?
Ooh, real quick though.
Yeah,
I've seen this work.
Okay,
take out Dak and put Goff, and now you've got your Baltimore defense.
No, I'm not too concerned about that.
Well,
I'd rather play Dak with the 2 pass catchers if I'm going to continue to use a running back who doesn't really catch a ton of passes.
Okay, take out the Baltimore D, take out Montgomery, go to Gibbs.
Does that work?
And you land at 2,600, who you liked someone there earlier.
It was Tampa, wasn't it?
Tampa against the Rattler. Boom. Look at that.
All right.
Also, that's another thing this week. Oh, they're going to be popular too. I was going to say, we already talked about it earlier. Actually, I'm just losing my mind here.
Yeah.
We already talked about like how people think that's going to be the thing, but it may actually not be because I don't know if they'll. The one thing I did read about Rattler real quick is that the coaches said no worries of him coming out. Like they've told him he's playing the game. It's his offense. Whatever happens, happens. So I guess that would lead more to the Tampa side of things if possible, but I don't know if we're going to get back-to-back weeks of the Chalk D just smashing.
Let's see how we can do this.
What do we got here? I like this slate. I'm fired up for it. You can probably tell.
I like how enthusiastic you are about this.
It's good. Yeah, you get all these 5 weeks out of the way. They're all trash. You just get it back all and more in week 6.
Rattler, Olave, Shaheed, Bucky Irving.
Okay, let's go to it. I think I like leaving Shaheed out, but that's just me.
Why would you ever leave Shaheed out? Dude's great. He had one bad game.
Yeah, but it was none with Rattler. That's what I'm saying.
Then if we're going off that basis, none of these guys have done anything with Rattler.
No, I know that. I'm saying
18,
more of like
16, 20, 16, and 0 are his 5 games.
Yeah, but what people are chasing it from is a situation. It's like, again, obviously the sample size is 0 for all of them with Rattler. He hasn't started a game. My point is it's the same thing we talk about. We still know it's a no-ball situation, but we still know the indie stuff. Like, obviously, we knew Downs, Flacco, or Downs, Flacco, Pittman would be more of a thing than when Richardson's been in. It's just the way it's been. We know the Carolina thing, that when Bryce Young's in, probably not Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Johnson time. The minute Dalton gets in, it's that. I think Taysom Hill matters here, but yeah, we can start with this. I just don't know if you need both.
Rattler triple.
I definitely prefer Olave.
Okay, he's also $1,000 more.
That's perfect.
And people would, I think that if anyone does try to triple stack Rattler, which they probably won't, it'd be Rattler, one of Olave and Shaheed with Juwan Johnson if Hill's out, which I have no interest in. I'd rather just use these two guys who actually are good.
I just want Taysom in.
I don't know if he's playing or not.
I know he didn't practice yesterday. I'm just saying I'll get more excited if that happens. So the passion's showing through.
I'll use Bucky Irving in this one right now. If White plays, I probably take him out, or hell, even just roll. If I'm using Spencer Rattler anyway, may as well roll the dice while we're up here.
So do we want Ertz and Zay?
I think you go McLaurin and Zay if you wanted to.
You can, but not when you've got.
You can go McLaurin and Henry in this lineup if you wanted to.
That's true. What do you want to do? That's the question. Yeah. Do you want a Henry Ertz? And then save the wide receiver flex for like getting after the Carolina Atlanta game or the Green Bay Arizona game or the Detroit Dallas.
You know what? Let's see if this works.
Henry and Gibbs with Ertz and Tolbert.
Henry and Ertz. Let's try that. Actually, no. Let's go Amon-Ra and Ferguson first. And then we can go.
I don't hate that.
We need the running back. The running back's the tough part here.
It's too much anyway.
Eckler? I don't know why I've talked myself into Austin Eckler, but here we are.
But are you playing Henry?
No.
Oh, okay. Man, I would be trying to do
Eckler and Flowers. And then 3,200, you could have Packers D if you wanted. Or Broncos D, which I do not like. I don't like the Chargers or Broncos D this week. Just that game reeks of running.
Which is 26. Oh man, I got the one for you.
All right, hit me.
We need a $2,500 D though.
That is the Cardinals, the Commanders, the Panthers, or Patriots.
What do we like? The Patriots?
Cardinals,
actually, because we don't have any Green Bay in this lineup.
Yeah,
this is a nice lineup. You'll like this one. I think.
Okay.
You get Rattler, Bucky Irving, Olave Shaheed, the same way you started.
Mm-hmm.
You go Gibbs with CeeDee Lamb, Ertz with Flowers, and then you land on the Arizona D.
Okay.
And you're not playing the Arizona Green Bay game. You get some of Baltimore, Washington. You get some of Gibbs and Lamb from that game still. I mean, these are all, the other thing about this, when I look at this type of lineup, is it's guys that can rack up points. Not necessarily Ertz, but he racks it up at a cheap price in a onesie position as part of a secondary stack. Like it's more to the levels to it. But I would say all these guys can rack up points without being worried about, the game passed me by in the game stack situation. Like Gibbs and Lamb could do just enough in that game and not need a full game stack.
Rattler.
He makes it all work, man.
Does he run? I have no idea.
I don't know too much about him either, to be honest, but it's.
I saw Drake May's rushing prop was set at 28.5 for the game.
Did you look up if Rattler has one?
I did not as of yet.
I'm gonna pull it up right now. Player props.
I can just go to the Run the Sims prop sniper, see if it's in there.
Yeah,
See what the best price is for Spencer Rattler rushing props. See, Rattler, get him in there. Passing touchdowns, rushing yards. There's no lines out on it, but his medium projection right now from Run the Sims is 14 rushing yards.
All right, so he's going to rush a little bit, but
that we think he's going to rush a little bit.
Maybe he's a scrambler.
This is where not watching college football
hurts. Yeah,
it's not good.
410 career rushing yards over 2 years.
So no,
not very good.
But we've seen this in certain circumstances as well with rookie quarterbacks that the coaches just tell them, hey, don't bother forcing the ball and put the ball down and run.
I definitely could see it. I think that's the thing about the Rattler lineups. We went double, but man, you can just really stack it up. Like there's just so many guys you can put into it.
Tipton?
I didn't like him even in the showdown slate the other night, so I don't know on main slate, but maybe.
Well, they cut Perry. Perry's on the Broncos now.
A.T. Perry, man.
Yeah, A.T. Perry. Get him in there. But I think Josh Reynolds might not play again this week, so you have like little Jordan Humphrey and Cortland Sutton and a bunch of guys you probably don't want to play.
Play X-Man, the X factor for us this week.
He could be the X factor.
That's the one this week if he does it and breaks it again, but I don't know if he will. I'm not as high on him as the Slayton one, but he's at least somewhat interesting.
Well, let's see how we could get let's say we just go Rattler Shaheed with Bucky Irving. Okay. You could put in Hutchinson to save all that money. You could then take Ertz up to Ferguson.
Yeah.
You take Lamb down to
you can still
Flowers, McLaurin.
I think you probably want him with Derrick Henry. You got Flowers. Maybe you go McLaurin Henry instead of Zay. What do you think about that?
Let's see. Can we do that? Oh, yeah, we can. And we still have $2,800 left. You can get Bucky Irving up to Saquon if you wanted to. So you go Rattler, Gibbs, Saquon, McLaurin, Henry, Ferguson, Shaheed, Hutchinson with Cardinals D, and Spencer Rattler.
You get...
At least you've just put in all the studs in this lineup.
Who did you get? Barkley in there?
Yeah. Barkley, Henry, Gibbs.
And then who's the McLaurin spot? Oh, and it's got the Arizona D.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lineup. That is one thing about the Rattler stuff, though, too, is it's just like literally it's him and someone else that need to come through.
Hey, if he throws a touchdown to Shaheed, you are money.
You're in good shape. You have Henry, Barkley, McLaurin, Gibbs, Ferguson. You got a bunch of these good games covered. Did you have any interest in Kirk Cousins stacks? That's the other one I was going to ask you.
I feel like I should, but I don't.
So I'll run one again for us, just right quick, because we didn't do it, and I think people are interested in it. But just to show you, even if you use your slots up, I've talked about this plenty in the past. You go like Mooney, London, Deontay Johnson. Okay.
1 second. Let me load up a screen here for us. All right. So who is it?
I went with Kirk Cousins, Mooney, London, Deontay Johnson. And I think I had this earlier just to show it off. Tight end is Zach Ertz. Yeah, tight end is Zach Ertz.
And then superstars at every other position?
Well, I forget how exactly. Maybe instead of Mooney, go with McLeod. I'll just show you this because I just want to show a version of somewhat close to what I was looking at earlier to give an example.
I have absolutely the wrong slate clicked here. This is like I clicked on to, when I was quickly bringing everything up, I clicked on the late slate of games, which is only like 2 games. I was like, what is going on here with this? Let's go. 10-game slate. We'll throw this one to the $3. Create new lineup. Okay. So it's Kirk, Mooney, London, with Deontay Johnson and Zach Ertz.
I went with McLeod over Mooney, but I used up all my wide receiver spots on this 3-1 stack of Cousins, McLeod, London with Deontay Johnson.
And then you have Zach Ertz.
And then Zach Ertz is opposite Derrick Henry.
Okay.
And then I went with, just rounding it out just to get to something, I went with the Philly D, Javonte Williams, Tony Pollard. It projects like 8 points more than the original optimal with my current projections, just to show it how you can sort of fit on all the game stacks. Now, this doesn't have Detroit Dallas in it,
Pollard. Who was the last one? Javonte Williams?
Javonte. It's more of those mid-range guys with that. You could obviously mess around with it and get up to, like if Javonte became Bucky Irving, you could take Henry up to Barkley and you move off that spot. But it's just an example to show you how you can kind of fit all the games in. So I would expect Cousins and this stack to get more popular as the week goes on because it makes everything work and it projects well.
Would you like, so you like the Atlanta side better than the Carolina side?
Yeah. I think the Dalton side is fine though.
I would just go Dalton, Deontay, Bijan if I was actually going to play that one.
Yeah, Dalton, Deontay, and then you flip the Cousins stuff to the Dalton stuff. You flip the...
You could probably keep Ray just for the savings if you wanted
to. The Chuba Hubbard stuff over. Yeah, what's that? How much is Dalton on the slate, actually? I didn't think about him a lot, but he's 5,200. And if you go with Deontay and you put Bijan, and that flips the Bijan Hubbard stuff as well, you do have money to spend.
Do you like Fields at all this week? Against this terrible Vegas D?
Kind of, not as much as I like the other guys, though.
That's fair. All right, I think we've covered enough here.
Yeah.
Try to give you some ideas. Out of all of the ones that we built stack-wise, if you were thinking about single entry or 3 max or whatever it would be, would you overload that Baltimore-Washington game in one of those, or would you go to one of the other ones? Because I think the Philly one is actually my favorite.
The Hurts lineup?
The Hurts with A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I really like that lineup.
I think that makes me unique enough as it is, and then I can just load up with the plays that I like.
Is that the one with Bucky Irving, Chuba Hubbard, and we landed on... Yeah, I like that lineup with Jake Ferguson, Gibbs, the Green Bay D against Arizona.
Yeah.
I like that lineup quite a bit. And then I also liked the I like the Will Levis lineup that I had with Levis, Ridley, Mitchell. And then you got Henry, Barkley, Deontay Johnson, Zach Ertz, Dobbins, and the Philly D. Like that's just a...
See, I like the Rattler version of that lineup better.
I think most would.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rattler version.
I think we've seen Levis win Millie Makers, and we're about to see what Rattler can do this weekend. And does price matter? Yeah, but he's 4K. Levis is 4.8K. He's not. It's not like we went up to a 6K Will Levis or something here. He's $800 more.
I think I just like the Barkley, Gibbs, Henry overload
That's what
at running back with the Rattler lineup.
Yeah, I got Barkley, Henry, Dobbins, but I also have Deontay Johnson and other guys in there too. So I don't know. I like them both. I think those are the type of builds that will find their way up. If not, I think it's like the Dak or the Hurts lineups. I think those are the ones.
All right. That will do it on the Pat Mayo experience. Code Mayo at Underdog right now to get yourself that deposit bonus of up to $1,000. You guys are live on the Ship It Nation YouTube channel. That's a free show, right?
Every show's free.
There you go.
Yeah, you can check it out on Sunday. That'll be 9:45 a.m. Eastern. And you go to shipitnation.com, use code Mayo to get a free week. Gets you in. So
free week.
Free week. Check it out right now. Go over there.
Code Mayo.
Free week trial with Code Mayo.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to sign up with Code Mayo right now. Get myself a free week.
Send it out. I think you're already signed up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right. I already have a sub. That makes sense. I don't need the free week, but you might need the free week out there. Use Code Mayo at shipitnation.com. Code Mayo at Run the Sims, too. If you want all of the tools, the simulations, the optimizer, the prop sniper, it's all available at runthesims.com right now. And Code Mayo will get you a discount. All right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!